Hello and welcome back to the Can I Get a Refill podcast. You will feel like you've heard from me every fortnight, but I have not recorded in weeks and weeks, so I'm very excited for today's episode. So I have some company in my home to talk to. This episode's probably especially for mums and dads. Today we're talking nutrition and weight loss advice for busy mums with clinical nutritionist, speaker and fellow podcast host, Jade Harman. Jade, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so good to chat to someone else too. When you work for yourself, it's nice to have conversations.
Isn't it? I honestly feel like it's just been me and my son, which is lovely, but I'm like, I really miss talking to people. And I worked for a wellness company that was all women around the same age, and I'm like, I really miss bouncing off that energy. So it's just really nice to have these chats. I had a few weeks off because I had a lot of episodes backlogged, and I'm like, I am ready. Now I've got back-to-back episodes booked and I'm so excited to talk to people again. And they're interesting conversations that you would have with your friends anyway, but also industry experts. So it's this whole podcast is for me, basically. So
yeah, totally.
Everyone else who listens is a bonus. And you're in WA, aren't you, Jade?
Yes, correct. Perth. It's nice and sunny here today.
I was just going to say, tell me the weather. It is freezing. I'm looking out of my window in Sydney, non-stop rain. And the seasonal blues have hit me hard, and especially you would know when you have little kids and you take them out every day for a long walk or to the park. It's so limiting. I've just had my husband take him to the shops and play in the indoor play equipment, but I'm very ready for spring. Yeah. I'm completely done.
Totally understand. It's been raining here a lot compared to what it normally does, so to have some sun is so great. And
I just read this morning we're in for a wet spring. I was like, please don't tell me. I mean, it's better than a summer of bushfires, but still, my God, yes. I need vitamin D.
Yes, totally.
Jade, we're going to jump into it. There's so much to talk about today. So could you please start by telling us a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to create your business, Harman Health?
Yeah, of course. So I actually have a previous career in marketing, funnily enough. And long time ago, I read a book from a nutritionist and it just got me interested in nutrition. And I think that was around 2011, 2012. And I just kind of followed my interest a little bit and I ended up just starting a degree because apparently that's what I did. This was pre-kids, obviously. And
when you had time to study, of course.
Exactly. And then I took my time. I just did that part-time. So it took me about 6 years to finish the 3-year undergrad Bachelor of Health Science of Nutritional and Dietetic Medicine. And I had both my kids in between that period as well.
And still working in marketing whilst you're studying?
Doing a little bit, so like part-time work. And then when I finished, I really, and even throughout my degree, I was getting so frustrated watching people online. And I guess just the way that a lot of people were made to feel inadequate or around nutrition in that it had to be really hard. And it had to look perfect. And this was especially around the time when Instagram was a lot about people would take pictures of their food and, things like that. It was
with huge. The borders. Do you remember the borders you used to put on them?
And all those filters. And and I just thought there's such a space for nutrition being really simple and practical and realistic, which is, why I started my business. And side note, my husband says I don't like being told what to do. So working for myself was always going to happen. Yeah.
I hear that. When I met my husband, he was a PT, but I always tell people he wasn't my PT. I've never had a PT because I do not like being told what to do.
Oh, sure.
I'm right there with you, Jade. But you're just so spot on in what you're saying, especially, and this, I even had this theory before I had kids, but when you're a busy mum, as if you have time and energy for anything complex, and my husband is a great cook and loves to cook, and I've bought him the Ottolenghi cookbook and things, won't look at it. He wants simple, quick, like Instagram recipes, 5 ingredients or less, and you don't have time when you are in survival mode. But that doesn't mean that you want a Macca's drive-through either. You want healthy food. You just want it simple. So you're spot on. It sounds like you found that bit of a gap in the market. And I'm sort of diverting here, but you seem to have a really good business with not a lot of social media as well. So... Should I? I'll ask you that now.
Yeah.
How is like your newsletters are fantastic. I find them so engaging, and people are always saying your real audience is through newsletters and your website because you don't own your audience in Instagram. That can be taken away any day. So how have you sort of built a following, a customer base without relying heavily on social media?
No, I love the question because I do really have a love-hate relationship with social media, and I started my business and I built my one-on-one client base solely without social media for the first year, maybe 2 years of my business. And I guess my marketing background helped with that because I knew how other avenues to get clients. And then I obviously knew a lot about, the customer journey and keeping clients and retention and that kind of stuff. So I think my marketing background really helped with that. But it has been great to not rely on social media. And I've never wanted to, because I think what's really frustrating with social media at the moment is, in order to be seen and by people who even follow you, you have to be so controversial to get attention. And unfortunately, nutritional information isn't controversial. It's boring. It's really simple.
Yeah.
And I would be really, to get that kind of attention, you're really overblowing really simple information just to get attention, which it just doesn't sit right with me.
You're not being authentic, because if that's not you, and this is my thing, I've got a friend in marketing who's like, you need, he gave me some great advice, but you got to have those controversial. And I said, I don't want to. I just don't, I don't want to upset people. Yeah, I'm the same. I don't want to be controversial. I want my messaging to make people feel good. And I find social media so hard because you have to be on it constantly, so consistent. But then that sometimes doesn't fit in with my whole message of having downtime and being in the moment with my child. So I do find that hard. Yeah. So it's so great that you've found your niche and your clientele without relying on it. Like, it's useful, and I don't know about you, but it probably sometimes depends on where I am in my cycle, whereas sometimes I'm like, I want to be online, and sometimes I'm like, I want to hide. I don't want people to see me.
Yes.
So it's so hard to just be consistent all the time.
Definitely.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
So weight loss was talked about incessantly in the 90s. I remember I was in school and I hated January because every magazine, every ad was all about, get your thin body back, and everything was diet. I feel like it's more controversial now to talk about weight loss, but the great thing is that the focus seems to have shifted more from the aesthetic to the health and the well-being. And I'm trying to focus on, ironically, 2 days ago I weighed myself, I haven't for a while, and 12 and a half months after giving birth, I just hit my pre-body weight. But it's a different body. And I keep trying to say, I'm not trying to get back to where I was. I just want to be my fittest and healthy self. And I feel very energetic and I love jumping on the treadmill and running. And it took me a while to get back to that. But I'm trying not to focus on getting back to who I was, because I'm not who I was. So what advice do you have for new mums who feel pressure to get back to their old body?
It's so hard. I think that it's something that new mums struggle with the most because, like you said, it's the change in the body, and it's not so much essentially a specific weight, but their body might look different.
It does look different.
And and then that's also coupled with so much less time to spend on yourself. And with young babies, and especially even, newborn is slightly easier because they sleep a lot.
They sleep.
Generally. And then you get to the point where, hang on a minute, they only have 3 naps a day, and then they only have 2 naps a day, and then they're only on 1 nap a day, and then you have no time at all. And that only gets harder, not easier. So I think my advice to a lot of women, and this is new mums or a lot of women in general, is to actually lower their expectations. So, if you thought you would maybe get your body back or a pre-pregnancy weight within 6 months, maybe aim for 12 months. If it's not 12 months, maybe aim for 2 years. You want to try and jump on the treadmill 3 times a week, just aim for once. I
like that, step by step. And would you recommend not comparing? Because I was, in my head, I was remembering this girl at my gym who got her body back in what I think was 2 months, but I'm pretty sure she's 13 years younger than me as well. And I was like, I sort of lost 11 kilos in one go, and then the rest sort of just stayed stagnant for a while. And then it's not until I quit my job a few weeks ago that the last few fell off. And I was like, I think it was cortisol, because I get that puffy face with cortisol. So, would you recommend not comparing yourself to others as well?
Of course, but I think it's so much easier said than done. It's just something that we just naturally do, even quite unconsciously, which is hard to uncouple.
Yeah.
But more on that point, I think, is that we know that especially someone who's maybe classified overweight per the BMI classification can still be a metabolically healthier individual than someone who's in the healthy range.
That's me. So, I have big muscle mass. I'm always either overweight. I think at times my husband and I have been in the obese category, and we're like, we don't even look at that because we're very big muscle mass. Yeah.
Yeah. And so your muscle mass is, for you to have a phenomenal amount of muscle mass is great for your health.
Yeah.
You might look different to someone who doesn't have a lot of muscle mass, but you might be metabolically healthier and you're going to have better health outcomes than someone else.
Okay.
So I think that's kind of the education piece that I try and give my clients, in terms of let's focus on these numbers specifically for you because they're what matter best towards your health. And hopefully that takes out some of that comparison element that we just fall into quite often.
And it's not about putting pressure on a mum to look a certain way. You want to feel well and you want to feel healthy and you want to get fit so that you can play with your kids. But for me, do you know what it was? It was more like you can lose yourself within motherhood and you can just... I felt like there was a part of me that disappeared into the mum me, and a lot of that I equated with not so much how I looked but the fitness, and I was like, it felt like a part of me died, and I feel like I'm going to cry, but that's hard. That's really hard to feel like you've lost a piece of your identity, especially when I was like 6 days a week in the gym, and that was a huge part of me. And a lot of people, like you said, it's easier said than done. You can be like, oh, and I'm in so much joy with my son, but you do miss that certain part of yourself. So yeah, it's tough, and I feel for mums because dads get the new kids as well, but their bodies don't change that much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they don't have the physical changes to deal with. No,
that's right. But they get the lack of sleep a little bit too.
Yes.
Would you say, just as a little side thing, do you think that weighing yourself frequently is detrimental, or is that something you would recommend perhaps once a week?
Less than that. I actually recommend once every 4 weeks. Okay. So I do think weighing yourself quite frequently is actually one of the most detrimental things that you can do on any kind of health journey, because we're really tying up this one weight number with and that's not giving you an actual representation of your overall health. So like we talked about, muscle mass is a big factor. Blood results, how are your blood sugars? How is your cholesterol? And the more important things is how do you feel and your quality of life. So what I generally do with the clients when I see them one-on-one is if they have a specific weight number or a goal weight, I always ask them why that number, because when I ask why, they always give me the actual reason, which is when I was that weight, I had more energy. When I was that weight, I had more time to play with my kids.
So it's attributed to a deeper reason.
Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, great. So we're going to rate your energy out of 10, and we're aiming to get to 10 out of 10. We're going to, for a lot of people, it's pain. I want to lose a bit of weight because I've got pain in my knees, pain in my hips, things like that. So, okay, well, if I'm a lower weight or when I have been a lower weight, I had less pain. Yeah. So then we're rating their pain and trying to get that to a 0. So there's a lot of other factors that we should be measuring. However, some people are still going to do their weight. So what I do recommend is every 4 weeks. And that'll account for more actual body composition changes as opposed to just those daily fluctuations that you're going to see,
and
depending
with girls
on what
with the
you age,
cycle. Like I wouldn't dream of weighing myself when I'm PMSing because everything's so bloated. But yeah, I threw out my scales years ago. I only got them when I fell pregnant just out of curiosity for how much I gained and when I got back to it. But yeah, for me, it was always about how I feel. Or how my clothes felt on me. I didn't want to look at that number all the time. I'm an obsessive person, and for me it was obsessive looking at that number. Yeah. What are your top nutrition hacks for exhausted parents, and how can we get kids to eat more veggies?
Oh, gosh. So I'm going to separate those two out. So I think in terms of exhausted parents and just getting them fed, essentially, I think focus on protein and fiber and forget about the rest. So it's not going to be perfect. You're not going to have all the things, but if you can get some protein in a meal and you can get some fiber in a meal, that's going to keep you full, keep you satisfied, and you're going to get a lot of what you need. So that could look like a couple of scrambled eggs and a piece of fruit. That could look like a couple of tins of tuna and a piece of fruit. Like, it doesn't have to look amazing. Can be completely grab and go, but focusing on those two elements will get you fed, and that will keep you going. And they'll keep you fed, but also in a really satisfying way. So you should feel quite full from protein, full from the fiber, and you're going to get health benefits out of both of those as well. The other thing would be, I think assuming that done is better than perfect. So, like I said, the tin of tuna and the piece of fruit is totally fine. You've got some protein, you've got some fiber, tick. And I think, so for parents, having those plan B options for yourself and knowing what they are. So you don't like eggs, you might just go with a yogurt pouch and a piece of fruit. And that's your standard, quick little go-to meal in the morning when you haven't had any sleep, essentially, before you then worry about feeding the kids. The kids, though, I wish I had
How
a
much
really
time do you have?
easy. I know. How do you get them to eat their veggies? So, I want to start by saying that it's not you as the parent. And I'll tell you a little story if this helps. So I have a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I've been a nutritionist the times that they've been around.
Yep.
And I've done the exact same things with my 5-year-old and my 8-year-old. And my 8-year-old
Both
is a
different.
fantastic eater.
Yeah.
Yep, fantastic. My 5-year-old, not so much. Complete opposite. He will have one vegetable.
I was just going to say, let me guess, the girl's the better eater than the
Yeah.
boy, because in my family, I ate everything, and my brother was very fussy. So, okay.
And so the reason I tell that story is just to illustrate that sometimes as a parent, it's not what you're doing. It's just related to child preferences and their differences, and that's okay. So just acknowledging that can be super helpful up front, just to take the pressure off parents. And the key is really just to providing, as a parent, you have to be so patient, which is so tricky because I feel like that's all we're told is to be patient.
Yeah.
But we just need to keep providing the opportunity for them to trial foods, but no pressure is placed on them if they don't, or no pressure is placed on them to try and get them to try new foods. So there is research to say that the more kids are forced into eating things or, bribing, that there's more risk of things like eating disorders. So we do just want to, offer those foods, but with no judgment, no pressure. If you don't eat it, it's cool. It's there on your plate if you want to give it a go at some stage.
Side note, I had this ex years ago, and I loved his mum. She loved me, but she had 2 younger daughters with a different husband, and she used to force feed. I remember the little girl in the kitchen. I could still hear her tears because she was being forced fish and she hated fish. And I was like, but she doesn't like it. Can't you just do something else? Can't she have chicken? And it was probably not my place, but what is the point of leaving that child locked in the kitchen while we're in the living room watching TV, crying because she physically hated that food? But, obviously, our parents grew up in a different generation where you don't leave until your plate's clean. But I just think, what is the point? If my son ever didn't like anything, I just moved on to something else and tried something different.
Totally.
And you know what's working for me? Just sort of hiding it a bit more. Like, he loves fruit, any sort of fruit he'll eat, but the veggies, like he'd go to the chicken and leave the sweet potato till last, even though at first he loved it. So now I do sweet potato mash in with these like turkey mince with peas and that. And I swirl all around, and he loves it because it's all in one bite. So for me, it's just sort of a bit of hiding with the other food seems to work. Yeah.
Definitely.
But they're all different.
Yeah, exactly. And if you think as adults, we have preferences. Like some adults don't eat any seafood. Some, we all have preferences. And so we just want to honour the kids' preferences while still providing them opportunities to try new foods.
Yeah.
Where we get to a problem is when, as a parent, we stop offering those foods because they never get that exposure. So just keep providing them with those opportunities and keep exposing them to those foods is kind of best practice.
Great. What's your sort of takeaway with your kids? Is it just sort of a special occasion when you're stuck out on the road?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we kind of just do, it's not something that they never not have because I feel I see a lot more problems with deprivation than of certain things than I see just moderation. So, we're not someone that's having McDonald's. I think I've brought my kids know what a Happy Meal is from other people, not from the family, not from me.
We were much the same. My dad would get it for us like twice a year. And back then it was usually birthday parties because when I was a kid, in the late 80s, in the 90s, the Macca's birthday parties were very epic. But yeah, my dad's Italian, so it was more Sicilian, so very home-cooked meals. And it was just very rare to have Macca's. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, my kids love like going to Grilled and getting the little thing, but it's not something that we'll do it's not something we do on a consistent basis. It's just something that, might happen if I've come home from a long day and for some reason I haven't prepared anything.
Yeah.
But generally we have planned for that kind of stuff. But
listen, side note, how good is Grilled? Every time I go there, I love it, but I never leave feeling gross because it feels cleaner. And little funny story, my son's very first restaurant he ever went to, he was 6 days old, it was Grilled. I remember we'd had him home for a few days and I was like, I need to go out. And it was Grilled, so there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's really good advice. Is meal prepping essential for new parents? And what are some tips for us if we're just two-time poor?
So not at all. I don't think meal prepping is essential for anyone, especially new parents. So I don't meal prep.
Right.
And I've never meal prepped.
Really?
And
I really didn't think you were going to say that.
yeah, so not a lot of nutritionists do, I guess. But so really, what I do in terms of, I basically just do meals that require, especially for like lunches, for example, meals that require assembling but not cooking.
Yes.
So that's what I encourage new parents to have a think about is, can you do a salad with the pre-cooked chicken from Coles? Woolworths and Coles do a great like pre-cooked chicken breast packet that have some flavored ones now. Keep those in the fridge. Add some salad veggies, add a dressing, and that's all you have to do. So have a think about some things that you can just assemble but not actually cook, I think is the way to go. If meal prepping isn't something that you can do and you don't have the time to cook something on the day. So although I don't meal prep my lunches, I just assemble my lunches basically. I do cook most nights, except most of my meals are one pan and do not take longer than 30 minutes. Exactly. And if they are, it's going to be something that's going to cook dinner for 2 nights, for example.
Yes.
So it's not something that I then have to do again the next day.
Yeah, how good are leftovers? Love leftovers.
Yes, yeah, so good. And then another thing to say, so instead of cooking, assembling, but also utilizing some of the food delivery services, not the HelloFresh where you have to actually cook something. There are some really great options for meal delivery that deliver you the full, cooked meal that have really great nutritional value. So I know a couple in Perth and there's heaps around that will deliver you actually some really tasty and really nutritionally good meals that you then only have to heat up essentially. And they're great quality and freshness. So we just have a lot more better options now. So just leaning on those even for days where it gets really hard. So maybe that your partner goes away on a Friday or is home late. So can you order those for just 1 or 2 nights a week, for example, to have them stashed in your fridge?
Listen, the first few weeks when we were both sleep deprived, we very much heavily lent on those and a lot of my mum friends were the same and like my husband will cook most nights because he enjoys it. It started when I was pregnant because I would just get tired and sick every day at 4 p.m. and just crash on the couch. So he just picked it up and he seems to keep going with it. But we were both so sleep deprived that we had to have those meals. But yeah, they're really useful. My husband and I both used to work in gyms and you'd be there till 7 p.m. So we used to have those, I can't remember if it was My Muscle Chef or My Fitness Kitchen, but we had them. It was essential. It was by the time we got home at 8:30, we're not eating dinner. I like to eat very, very early. So
Yeah, totally. And the other thing I would say is instead of meal prepping, breakfast for dinner works so, so well. We do this probably like at least once a week in my house in terms of breakfast meals generally have a lot of fiber. They don't have a lot of saturated fat, and those two things are really good for your health. So, and
a bit of protein, right?
Pardon?
And a bit of protein,
yeah,
usually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So my kids think it's great because I'm like, cool, we're having eggs for dinner. We're having pancakes for dinner. And they think it's a novelty. And I'm like, so easy for me.
Yeah.
But you actually are probably eating better in some cases than you would if you had gotten takeaway or something like that as well. So I think that's a really good hack that I use.
That is great.
It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, you're very practical. It's not what I expected to hear. And I personally love an omelette for dinner. So I think that's great advice. Can you talk us through your 5-minute kitchen hacks that every mum needs?
Yes, so I would definitely make sure that you're relying on frozen veggies and fruits when you need to. So yes, obviously still can we use all the fresh ones? Great. But in terms of nutrient quality, there's nothing wrong with your fresh frozen vegetables and frozen fruits because they're snap frozen. So they actually preserve a lot of... Yeah. So
I've had biohacking episodes and they've mentioned that. And when you work it out, it's probably cheaper.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And the only problem I have is with the frozen veggies is there's not a lot of variety in those. You generally get your peas, carrot, corn, sometimes broccoli, sometimes cauliflower.
The mid-90s vegetables.
Yeah.
Before we got a bit fancy.
Yeah. So I'm fine to use those as a backup when things are really tough, totally fine.
Yeah.
But it's just the fact that and if you're using for a period of time, it's fine. It's just more long-term, you're not getting the variety of using the fresh ones.
For your gut microbiome to have all the variety,
correct.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yep.
But for a short period of time or using them as a backup, it's totally fine because you're still getting the fiber out of them. So that would be number one. Number two would be... especially if you're a mum who has kids going to daycare and you've got to make a lunchbox or school, is lunchboxes the day before when you're doing dinner. Because if you're already chopping stuff up, just, chop the same stuff up, put it in the lunchbox.
Yeah,
mornings
that's
are so much easier. I start to get stressed out if I haven't done a lunchbox the night before because then the mornings just feel so much more stressful.
It's like saying, oh, just fill up the tank with petrol in the morning. You're never going to do it, so just do it.
And then the morning comes, you're like,
You're
oh,
always time for in the morning. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing would be a fridge calendar. And not that I think everyone has to meal prep, but meal plan, I think, is something that's really crucial. Not for all of your meals. Like generally, most people have the same thing for breakfast, but mainly for you for your hardest meal. If dinners are your hardest meal, timing wise, family wise, just kind of have a plan on the fridge of what your dinners are going to be. Or if lunches are your hardest meal. Yeah, so I kind of do a week, and it's just helpful because then you can do your shop, you've got everything. You know, if you've got a partner who comes home late or comes home early, they can look at the fridge and know what's happening. Every time you open the fridge, you know what's happening. Every time you open the fridge, you might go, oh, I don't have chicken for tomorrow. You know, like it just...
this is what I agree with. So it's not so much about the meal prepping, it's the meal planning, because that is when I think people are either making unhealthy choices or ridiculously expensive choices, and everyone is grabbing Uber Eats. That adds up, and I hate to sound like a penny pincher, but my Lord, and like everyone buying lunch when they're out at work. I used to work in Double Bay in Sydney, is a very fancy area. It was $20 for a sandwich, Jade. I mean, come on. I'm like, girls, you know you can bring something from home, but no one did. And to me, that's just money down the drain. And that's why I really love your simple thing of breakfast for dinner. When I was growing up, there was nothing wrong with having those thrown together, you know, like having toasted sandwiches or something, like, or having a sandwich for lunch. Everyone's doing gourmet things now, and you really don't have to. You can kind of keep it simple, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Instead of a sandwich, I prefer a wrap. So I prefer the large Simpsons Pantry wraps because you can get more inside them.
Yeah.
But still, same. It's totally fine. Yeah, totally fine.
I like wraps, and my husband and I will make occasionally pizzas at home, and very often we'll use wraps as the base, and sometimes I'll just get the chicken, like you're saying, from Coles or Woolies, and have that, and just add like different veggies and stuff. It's so easy, but it's so tasty.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And it's fun. It's fun putting a bit of music on and having a glass of wine while you make the pizza.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you feel that this is very applicable to me at the moment? Do you feel that running your own business is giving you more time with your kids or less time?
I love this question, actually. And how I would answer that is initially it gave me less time.
Yeah.
Now it's given me more time. So when I first started my business, I did spend far too much time in the early years working hours that were very much industry norm. So I would work a Thursday night and a Saturday to kind of get, so clients could find times that really suited them if they worked full time, for example. But that really took me away from the kids more, which is kind of not the reason why I did my own business.
Especially weekends. They're very valuable when your children are so young.
Yeah. And, I have really had to I haven't really had the option to work for anyone either. So my son has a condition where he needs a lot of therapy. So we do speech therapy, we do OT, we do physio. And so I need the flexibility to be able to take him to all of those things. So what I've managed to do, and I've only managed to do it probably in the last year or two, and it's taken me some time, is I have really managed to pivot and iterate my business to hours that I really like. So I pretty much only work school hours at the moment, and then except when I'm doing a couple of longer days. But it has taken me a long time to get to this point, and that's come down to the choices I've made. And I've set more boundaries as well. So I have a really, kind of condensed calendar for one-on-one clients. And I've changed some of my offerings in my business as well. So I now do a lot more speaking and corporate workshops, which kind of fit nicely into kind of school hours and same thing, instead of, and I do a bit less one-on-one work. So that's been really helpful.
But that's the luxury of having your own business, is that you dictate your schedule. You don't really owe anyone an explanation of when. They don't know that your diary isn't full with other appointments or you time, and it doesn't matter. That's you're deeming what's important to you. And I just think I always harp on about time being so much more valuable to me than money. And I think that's why a lot of people want money, is to have that freedom of time to create those moments with their family. And I've been doing it just for a few weeks, and I feel like brought to tears the joy that I feel with being able to do a few hours of work when he's napping, and then in the afternoon we can sit and play and go to the park, and I'm not racing back to log into work because someone's going to see what time I'm logging in. And the joy I feel as a mum to spend that quality time with him is just, I just can't. I wish every mum could do it, I can't compare it to anything. It's just so valuable, but it's then on the other end of the spectrum, you're always on call, I guess. When it's your business, it's extra responsibility, but it's it's just so nice to be able to have that extra time. So that's good to hear, because you've been in it for a few years, that you've, initially it's a lot, and then you get to that stage where you can.
Yeah, I think, and I think talking to people who have done it before, like, I've had a business mentor who I've spoken to who has a business with young kids, and being able to learn from someone who's set a lot of those boundaries to start off with can be super helpful, because I'm like, I'm running around here trying to please everybody, when really I just need to do what works for me and my family, and everything's going to be okay if I do make those choices.
Absolutely.
So having those kind of people to kind of talk you through it, I think, which took me a long time to learn, but
because I think like there's a part of all of us that's a bit of a people pleaser and doesn't want to put people out, and feels like they're stepping on toes by putting those boundaries, but it's not. It's really just being respectful to yourself. But what a pleasure it is to be able to take your child to appointments or go see them in a play or something without having to lodge your annual leave, and just doing. It's just lovely, isn't it? It's so nice.
It really is, yeah. And it has allowed me to, I think, there's a difference of like time and quality time too. Like I noticed when I was doing kind of all the things in my first few years, even when I was with the kids, I wasn't as present as I wanted to be, and really simplifying my business and putting a lot more boundaries in. The times that I am with my kids, I'm so much more present. I'm not checking my phone. I'm not worried about what emails are coming through. And that has been a really nice shift for me in kind of just the last year, really.
Yeah, and I bet they'll notice that when they grow up and look back, that mum was present, and, because there were no mobiles when I was growing up or when you were growing up. So, my mum was always present. My mum used to cook Play-Doh from scratch on the stove and sit and play with me. So it's very important to give them that time. But it's also important to put time into you, and it's great for kids to see mums working hard and striving towards something as well. This show is all about filling up your cup. So, Jade, I have to ask you, what is something you'll be doing in the next week to fill up your cup?
Oh, this is such a great question. And I'm glad you asked it, because it will make me accountable, which is great.
Yes. Do you want me to check in with you in a week to see that it's been done?
No, I'm going to go to the beach, because we're not too far from the beach, like maybe like a 15-minute drive, but I just have not been. And I'm like, I just want to go and sit on the beach. And so I'm going to do that when it's not raining next week. And if you can please check in with me.
I will. I'm going to do it. Do you know what? It's nature. And that's why people get seasonal blues. It's because you're indoors too much. I'm telling you now, 2 days ago, we had full sunshine day, and I did an hour and a half walk in the morning, and then an hour on my own, and then an hour and a half in the afternoon with my son. I'm right on the water, so it's the Esplanade at Cronulla, and you see all the same people, and that's when my face depuffed. I think it was just the cortisol, like being out in nature, and it's just so good. And this is why I was scrolling through photos of my son when he was little and it was summer, and I'm like, I'm pushing him out in the pram and it's 7 p.m. and it's so sunny outside, and I cannot wait for that to come back. I just think that it adds so much to my health and to my life when you get that extra sunshine in the night. So
definitely.
It's definitely nature. Well, you enjoy that. I'll have to think of something I'm going to do in the next week. It's probably going to be indoors, but that's okay. Jade, I really appreciate you gave some real just great punchy practical tips for any parent to use. So, and even non-parents, really, that's just great nutrition advice. So what I'm going to do is link everything in the show notes for everyone. I recommend everyone go and please sign up to Jade's newsletter. They're fantastic. So thank you so much, Jade. It's been an absolute pleasure, and enjoy the beach.
I will. Thank you so much for having me.